Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Cure for Social Distancing. We are very excited to be offering this webinar this afternoon to MHA members as a way to thank you for your continued support of MHA education and all that you do and participate in at MHA. So thank you all to folks who are on the line, members of MHA. We appreciate you and hope that you are closing out 2020 with this webinar in a great way and looking forward to what hopes to be a wonderful 2021. I am very excited to introduce Erik Therwanger. I connected with him through a suggestion of someone on our professional education committee and have had a few conversations with Erik and have thoroughly enjoyed every minute of them. So I hope you enjoy Erik's energy and personality. He is awesome. And so Erik is the founder of Think Great and the author of the Think Great collection. As the vice president of a media company, Erik developed a team of leaders and designed the systems necessary to achieve over 300% annual sales growth. He now teaches business leaders, you all, how to reach new levels of success on his unique experiences as a United States Marine, executive business leader, sales professional, and entrepreneur. So I am happy to introduce Erik and then hand it over to him.
All right. Aubrey, thanks so much for having me on, and MHA, it is so great to be here with you on this historic day, 2 weeks away from the craziest year in the history of the years, right? This is it. This is one for the record books. How many of you are ready to party like it's 1999 when COVID-19 is behind us? Yeah, I'm sure we got some hands going up there. So this has been a crazy year. Yeah, there we go. All right, I'm with you, Marilyn. Maybe it's just Marilyn and I ready to party like it's 1999, but this has been a crazy year. And when I mentioned to leaders, and you should be able to see, let me make sure you see my screen here. I want to make sure. Aubrey, is that good? Can you see the Cure for Social Distancing? Okay, you can see my awesome. So today is just going to be a little more conversational about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and you'll see why. I care a lot about people, and I have been on a mission, a crusade, if you will, to share the cure for social distancing. And for many people in business, this may be the first time they have ever experienced chaos, challenges at this level, but it's not my first time. You know, as Aubrey mentioned, I was in the Marine Corps. You saw my picture up there. And that picture was taken, you know, just a couple years before Desert Storm broke out. And so I've experienced chaos or challenging situations in the military. The military is known for separating or socially distancing you from people you love. I've also been my wife's caregiver through 4 battles of 4 different types of cancer. And about 5 years ago, she passed away of cardiac arrest while I was doing CPR, until the first responders brought her back with the 3rd hit of the defibrillator. And again, during those times, not only did I wear a mask like we do today, but I was socially distanced, and so was she from a lot of our loved ones. So the impact of social distancing is huge, but we're not talking about it enough. And what I want to share with you today are some new thoughts about an action that we have taken on a massive scale, by the way. But we're not talking about the side effects and how to transition people back the right way. And as most of you have probably gathered by now, most human beings have a tougher time with transitions than the actual incident. And so if COVID-19 has been challenging, which it has, the transition could be even more challenging if we're not prepared for it. And so I want to get you prepared for it. Because as Aubrey said, you know, we're excited about 2021. How many of you guys are ready to dominate 2021 and take back control of your life, your business, your environments, everything? How many are ready to literally seize the day every day in 2021? And you guys, you can throw comments into the questions section there. You can raise your hand up. All right, Alan, I see you. You're ready. I'm ready with you too. But I'm going to give you the prescription for unification right now, which is the opposite of distancing. And distancing is a very, very powerful word, and it impacts us. And so I just want you to think for a second in your business, in your interactions, in your organization, what would you say is the greatest asset? If I asked you that simple question, which I ask every business leader, what is the greatest asset in your business? How would you reply to that? Can anybody throw anything into the question box? Just toss in an answer there to that question. What would you say is the greatest asset in your business, or the greatest asset at MHA? What do you think about that? Megan, awesome. We've got team members, we've got employees coming up. I like this. You guys are right on target. Our staff, people, staff. So we're on the same page here. We are. I would agree with you. I think that the greatest asset in any business is people. And so what I'm going to share with you is the people side of COVID-19, the people side of social distancing. And when we bring people together, they form a team. And I want to ask you another question. Since I'm going to ask a lot of questions today, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is teamwork to you if 10 is at the highest level of importance? How would you answer that question? I got a 9. Teamwork is a 9. How many others would rank it? Okay, I got some 10s coming in. And maybe a 15. Megan, I love that. Teamwork, a 15, right? So think about this for a second. Man, I'm getting fired up. Megan just got me fired up on a 15. All right. How many of you, just with a show of hands, would agree that teamwork is a 10 out of 10 for you? It's that important, right? Look at all the hands going up. Awesome. Okay. So, see, it's okay for you to fire me up too. I love enthusiasm, as you may have already noticed. If people are our greatest asset, and when we bring them together to form a team, teamwork is at the highest levels when we are together. Oh, but wait a minute. We're not always together like we used to be, right? And that's what we're going to talk about. And a lot of leaders just feel they're just going to bring people together when the vaccine comes. But I want to talk about that. That is not exactly the best solution. When I served in the military, I realized you don't send people away. You don't remove people from their family and loved ones and coworkers and then bring them back just because the war is over and go, hey, everything should be fine. It won't be. Just because the war has ended or their tour of duty has ended doesn't mean that the psychological and the physical damage is over. In fact, the end of the war may signify that that is when those things are going to be noticed most. When I was my wife's caregiver, I'm going to share with you something very important. They taught me how to be a caregiver. She had a very aggressive form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I had to give her 2 shots in the legs every night. And we were only married 10 months. We were married 10 months when she was diagnosed. I had to clean the Hickman line that stuck out of her chest, a tube. I had to clean the exit wound, flush it every night with saline, give her medications. I was trained as a caregiver. I was instructed to keep her positive and keep her spirits high. But then the oncologist actually said something that was really, really odd to me. He said, because you guys are newlyweds, I want to share something with you. Most marriages after the cancer, after the person survives, if they survive afterwards, many relationships fall apart. And I thought, well, geez, that's horrible. So we beat the cancer, we stay unified through the challenge, and then afterwards, there's a high likelihood we might divorce. And I said, why is that? He said, because when people go through a challenge, like COVID-19 or cancer or combat, when people go through a challenge, mentally and physically, it takes a toll. And after it's finished, sometimes there's nothing left. Most people in business will not make a shift during chaos or challenge. They will wait till it's over, and then things will start to fall apart. If you value your people, if you value teamwork, you don't want to make it through this to have it all fall apart on the other side. And that's why I want to help you. And we're actually implementing this cure, this prescription. We're doing it in businesses right now. The results are phenomenal. So I want to share some of these ideas with you. We also have to look at how people function or think when they're part of a team. So if you look at these stats coming up, according to Gusto, 54% of employees say a strong sense of community kept them at a company longer than was in their best interest. So When there's community, that community feel, people stay longer than they should have. They want to be a part of that. As we go on with some of the other statistics, businesses with effective communication are 50% more likely to have lower turnover. All right, so we're seeing community as a factor, communication is a factor in teamwork and people staying together. 27% of employees who plan to leave their business, to leave their job within the first year, they cite feeling disconnected to the organization as the reason they're leaving. So connection is important. 97% of workers and employees believe that the lack of team alignment influences the success of a task or project. So the team needs to be aligned. So we're talking about community, communication, connection, alignment. And employees and executives are unanimous that effective teamwork in the workplace exists when employees have their vision and goals in alignment. What I have found through all of this, through chaos, most people put sharing vision and setting goals on the back burner. Now, I'm going to encourage you to move them forward, but these are all extremely important. And wrapping up these statistics on how people think, when everyone knows their objective, a la the goals, the vision, and their job, the team becomes unstoppable. So, social distancing has impacted the community feel. It has impacted communication. It has impacted the connection people have. It's impacted alignment of our goals and our visions. People feel uncertain, unstable, and it's impacting performance in many, many big ways. So let's just look at it from another perspective, not even your business. Let's talk about two people in love. If I were to ask you this question, how would you answer it? Do most long distance relationships fail or succeed? How many agree that most long distance relationships fail? It's a harder relationship, right? So most studies show that long distance relationships do not work. In fact, there's a lot of broken hearts because of it. Anybody know what the common denominator is in long distance relationships not working? What's the number one common denominator of why it doesn't work? It's right there in the title, distance. Listen, distance is a relationship killer. Distance is a team killer. It is hurting businesses. It's hurting organizations right now. How many of you were socially distanced from your family during the holidays? How many of you didn't see the people you care and love most about? Leaders, don't think for 1 minute this isn't having a toll. Everything even happening on the home front. How many of you are part-time teachers right now? Literally have kids at home, distance learning. Anybody have kids at home, distance learning? How many of you agree that children are being impacted right now significantly by being distanced from their schoolmates, distanced from their teachers? Absolutely, we know it. We cannot think for a minute it's not happening in the workplace. It absolutely is. No matter how well your team performs during the chaos, there's an impact. Now, there's an interesting study about long distance relationships. There are some people that say, all right, let's get rid of the distancing and move in together. That should solve everything. Well, Ohio State University found that 82% of couples in their long distance relationships put an end to their adventure together after finally moving in. 82% of people who love each other called it quits after they moved back in. All they did was remove the distancing. Didn't work. In fact, a third of those relationships fell apart within 90 days, 3 months. Business leaders, I implore you to pay attention to the impacts of social distancing. In the next 18 months, maybe sooner, you are going to see even the greatest teams start to fall apart if they do not prepare for the removal of the distancing. We have to prepare for it. This is critical. So, on, I think it was March 11th, the World Health Organization declared a worldwide pandemic, and CDC immediately came out and they gave us 3 major guidelines, right, to stop the spread. And they were pretty simple. One was wash our hands. As adults, I think we should know to do that anyways, right? So that was like, all right, that's kind of a no-brainer. The next was wear a mask. All right, I'm not a huge fan of wearing masks. I wore a gas mask in the military. I wore a mask as my wife's caregiver. It's not unfamiliar to me. I'm just saying I don't prefer it. How many of you are ready to tuck those masks away forever soon? Are you just ready? Yeah, Debbie's hand went up so fast I didn't even finish the sentence. Absolutely, I am too. I'm gonna have a mass burning party, right? I'm gonna start a big bonfire with those things. I can't stand them, but I get it. But it's the washing of the hands and the wearing of the masks. We're kind of okay with all that stuff. This is the biggie. Distance. Stay apart from each other. Leaders, here's something I found out about human beings. 99.9% of us are social creatures. We rely on that connection. And for 9 months now, we have been mandated to stay apart. And the restrictions are continuing right now, for Minnesota, right? Distancing is hurting teams. It's hurting performance. It's hurting a lot of things. So again, I go back to the very first question. Our greatest asset is people, and we've been told to keep them apart. Even in the workplace, they may have dividers up. They may have their masks on. We are not performing like we used to, and it is impacting performance. How many of you have seen maybe a decrease in performance in your teams since the beginning of COVID-19? Even though you've pulled together and worked, can you kind of get a vibe that it's impacting performance and morale? It's impacting their actions. Yeah, these are things that are happening. Well, listen, I know it is. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, because I'm interviewing team members. Not a one of them said, I'm doing better because of COVID. Not a single person. In fact, anybody watch sports out there? Any sports fans out there? Football, baseball, hockey, WWE? I know it's fake, but it's still fun to watch. So I've heard. Well, these are highly trained, highly paid athletes, highly disciplined athletes. And the distancing from their fans is impacting their performance. Athletes are struggling without that cohesion of their fans. In the empty stands, teams have started to put cardboard cutouts or video screens to simulate cohesion. But it's fake. It's not real. Now, don't write down put cardboard cutouts in the office. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that if highly trained, highly paid athletes are suffering from social distancing, it's highly likely the entire team is out there, right? Everybody's teams are suffering. And so when we look at the stats really quickly, here's what happened. According to Gallup, by March 13th, remember, the worldwide pandemic was declared on the 11th. 2 days later, 31% of the workforce was remote. 3 days after that, 49%. By the time April 20th rolled around, 62% of our workforce was remote with almost no preparation time, no ramp up time, no time to get the psychological nuances necessary to get us prepared for this. Even in the military, you go through boot camp. That's 3 months, depending on what branch you went into, at least 3 months. You also go through school for your job. So maybe another 3, 4, 5, 6 months or a year. You may be a year away from being eligible to go into a crazy, chaotic situation. We didn't have that ramp up time here. Don't think for a minute that that fast adjustment, even though we did it well, isn't going to have an impact. It will. And most of you might be familiar with Newton's third law of motion. I know you've heard of it, even though you're like, all right, wait a minute, I know what that is. But it very simply, Newton's third law of motion says, for every action we take, there is an equal and opposite reaction. All right, here it is. We know the action. The action was social distancing. Next logical question is, what is the equal and opposite reaction? What is it doing to our people? In other words, what are the side effects of social distancing? We need to know these things. I don't know if you guys watch a lot of TV, but if you do, there's a chance you've seen drug commercials. Has anybody seen drug commercials out there? Anybody seen the big pharma, high production value drug commercials, right? We've seen them on TV. And quite simply, they just say, hey, take this pill and it'll make you feel better if you have this. But let me ask you a question. At the end of the drug commercial, for the last 5 seconds, what do they cram in at the end? What do they tell you about at the end of the commercial? Anybody know? You can throw it in the question line. What do the big drug commercials have to tell you at the end? There you go, Julie hit it. The risks, right? Those side effects. And this is crazy, right? So let's just say, yeah, the side effects, all that, we hear it. There's so many of them for each drug. It's almost laughable. Almost you look at the person next to you and say, is this for real? Imagine this. Sometimes I saw one the other day. It was just for arthritis. And they said, hey, take this pill and it'll help your arthritis. You'll feel better. However, you may experience dizziness, diarrhea, depression, and death. I mean, okay. Hey, at least thanks for telling me. You know, the problem is the CDC said social distance. They haven't listed the side effects, but they're there. In fact, the short-term symptoms are happening right now. And this is what we need to go back to the office. We need to be observant of this. Or if you're working remotely, especially observant of this. Here are the symptoms. Business leaders are telling us we're experiencing a lack of accountability since we went remote or since there's been some form of social distancing. We have unproductive delegation. It's harder to delegate things out. Maybe communication has been more or less effective, right? Maybe we have minimized synergy. The team isn't firing on all cylinders, or the culture is lackluster now. You know, it feels different than it used to. We're experiencing high turnover or increased frustrations. How many on this call have experienced any one of those during COVID-19? And this is something that's universal across the board. And I've been sharing this presentation around the world, and everybody's experiencing it. This isn't limited to the United States. This isn't limited to Minnesota, by the way. How many of you have already heard, even if you did a great job of going remote, turning up the gears on the virtual side of things, how many have started to have people tell you, I'm experiencing virtual fatigue? How many have heard that phrase lately? Ever heard virtual fatigue? Hey, people, we're only 9 months in. This isn't over. If they're virtually fatigued, it's going to impact performance, right? So maybe you can't bring them back, but now you can't do as much virtually because they have this new symptom called virtual fatigue. But it's real. This is out there, right? I can't wait until I'm doing more and more live. Of course, I do a bunch of live events in Iowa because they're not shut down. So this adds to the confusion. This adds to the chaos. Not even every business does things different. Every state does things different. This isn't a universal way people feel. And all of your people feel different about the vaccine. All of them feel different politically right now. All of them feel different about a lot of things. And this has been a crazy year. This year alone, we had COVID-19, the transition out of COVID-19, the transition back in, and now we're transitioning out again. We've had civil unrest and an election year that is still going on. This is taking a major toll on people. I almost feel like we need to put a commercial out about 2020 and have the side effects listed at the end. All right, maybe I'll do that one. But there's also some long-term side effects, not just the short-term symptoms. And businesses are already feeling higher levels of disengagement, disconnection, isolation, conflict, just unnecessary conflict. We had a client I was talking to yesterday that said they have customers calling in and they can tell the customers' patient levels are different than they were 9 months ago. People are burned out. And we think we're just gonna slap them all back together and everything will be okay. It works in no other situation. It will not work in this one, not for long. So we have to be prepared. We're seeing forms of resentment, individualism, withdrawal, and detachment. These are just some of the side effects. The long term that people are already feeling. We haven't even discussed the HR impact. Could you imagine opening your doors up and saying you're now required to come back to work? And somebody says, I don't want to come back to work. I don't feel safe. And you say, we've done all the precautions. You need to come back or you'll lose your job. Well, that could be considered a hostile environment. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying perception is reality. And we could be looking at an HR nightmare during 2021. In fact, most HR professionals that I know, that I've coached, are actually saying they are anticipating more and more and more HR cases. Not COVID cases, HR. So we just need to be aware of things. We need to have a way of providing a cure for the impact of social distancing. Now, when this all broke out, Time Magazine did a very interesting article, and they described the coronavirus outbreak as the world's largest work from home experiment. Fair enough, they are right. They just didn't go in depth on what we need to be aware of. All they said is we went remote. Absolutely true. We just missed the big picture. But that's not the only experiment happening. There's experiments in accountability, communication, retention, goal setting, delegation, engagement, culture, vision, you name it. There's a lot of experiments going on. But that's not the biggest one that's happening right now. There is another experiment happening, and it's a unification experiment. Can we bring our people together? Even if they are cohesive right now, are they going to be cohesive during the massive transition happening? Because it won't go overnight, and after that, when everything is over. I'll be honest, when my wife went through a year of treatments for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 3, it was regimented, right? Chemo, radiation, stem cell transplant, medicine, doctor appointment, doctors. It was more regimented, just like the beginning of COVID, right? Stay 6 feet apart, curbside pickup, wear your mask. But the transition, things are different. There's variables, and we have a hard time with variables. The year of treatments for my wife was very, very challenging. It was the transition back to the new normal life that was the hardest. That was the one where there wasn't a playbook on it. We had to make it up as we went, and it was very challenging. I mean, some of you probably know people who have been through health challenges even outside of COVID. Maybe some of you have even been caregivers, and you get it. You know, there's not like the caregiver handbook. How awesome would that be? Are there any caregivers? Anybody on this call that has ever been a caregiver taking care of another human life? Yeah, it'd be great. Maybe I got to write that book too. I'm gonna do the caregiver handbook, right? We need it. Now, there's two options with unification. We're either going to pass or fail. We have to make this choice. We cannot hope for unification. These are the only two options. And as this all becomes over, we're going to find out quickly who passed and who failed. But let me just say this. The first step in unification is making the decision. How many of you are with me on unifying your teams during COVID, through the transition, and after? How many are committed to doing it? All right, I got 1, 2, 3. All right, we're getting some more hands going up. We have to make a conscious effort. When the oncologist told my wife and I that there's a high likelihood that your marriage could end, we had to make the decision to unify, to stay together. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. That chaos rocked us to our core. Now, 4 cancers later, cardiac arrest later, yeah, we've kind of figured out the unification thing. We know what to do, right? We know what to do. Is it ever easy? No, but it is simple. Is it always worth it? Every single time. You don't want to make it through this with your team, then lose them and have to replace them. You don't want 2020 to be the year of rehiring and retraining. You want 2021 to be the year of regrouping, reconnecting, reconquering, all these things, right? I would advise theming your year. Now, when you look at the numbers on how people feel about going back, it's pretty interesting. According to that first one there, nearly half of all workers say they are concerned about exposure. According to Gallup, 50% are concerned. So we can't just slap everybody back together, right? We need more than just a COVID-19 transition plan. We actually need a unification plan to where people feel like a team again. 80% of Americans would rather wait until there is significant decline, which isn't happening, it's on the rise, or no new cases. 80%. In that 80%, some say no new cases or I'm not coming back. We've even had business leaders say that they feel that some of their team are using COVID-19. I can't validate this as an excuse to not come back into the office. That they could. Everything's been taken, the precautions. Has anybody ever experienced that where you feel like some people kind of are using COVID-19 as I don't want to come back to work. I like working in my pajamas and a dress shirt. You know what I mean? People have gotten used to it now. I went to pick up my suits the other day from the dry cleaners. I got my suits, and as I'm looking on the dry cleaner rack, it's shirt, 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 shirt. I don't even know if anybody's wearing pants on these calls anymore. Nobody wants to go back to work like that. So people are trying to stay home, but hey, we got to be aware of that 80%. And it's reasonable to say everyday folks could get the vaccine likely in spring or summer. So we're looking at the big rollout of the vaccine, maybe by spring or summer of 2021, somewhere in it. Again, I know it's trickling out there, but it really hasn't happened at the massive levels yet. So what I want to encourage you to do is do not wait for the vaccine to unify your people. The vaccine will only fight the virus. The vaccine will not help with up here. End of the war does not help with up here. End of cancer or remission did not help with the psychological damage. We are really good at treatments for the incident. As a collective society, we sometimes struggle on the transition back. Everything was regimented for my wife during every single medical treatment. There was just not a lot of resources on transitioning back. Sometimes we felt like we were on an island by ourselves. Now, here's some undeniable facts when I talk to business leaders. Undeniable. Most of 2020, the majority of businesses have been practicing social distancing. That's undeniable. We've all been doing it in some form. Undeniable. Teamwork is essential for success in the workplace. It is undeniable that getting people together pre-COVID was important, but unifying our teams right now is a priority. That's undeniable. The impending fallout from social distancing is not an if it will happen, but rather when will this happen at my team? We have to be aware of that. It will happen. Look, I'm from California originally. When I first moved out to Minnesota, they said, you need to shut off your pipes, your outdoor pipes. It is not an if it will go below zero, but when it will happen. And if I did not take action, I would be getting new pipes. So I'm like, all right, wait a minute. How do you do this? I've never done this in California. I got to winterize a boat. What does that mean? You don't winterize anything in California. It's undeniable that as leaders, we must unify our people during a time of forced distancing. Listen, leaders, move your people apart. That's the order. That's the mandate. Here's a suggestion. Bring them together the right way. Also, undeniable, we cannot afford to let the significant effects of social distancing slowly dismantle our teams. So I want to share with you a few things. I know we have limited time today. There is what we call the first aid kit. Some quick things you can do right now. Some of you are already doing it. Maybe you're having virtual coffee appointments. You know, I know we can't go out for coffee right now. We got a distance, but that type of coffee appointment, whether it's in person or virtual one-on-one with people, is critical. You know, we get to enhance our environment. It helps our culture out by meeting one-on-one. If people are our greatest asset, we got to check in and see how they're doing. A simple cup of coffee. I do it with my team. Let's grab a cup of coffee. Let's hop on online virtually right now. I'll do it when I travel too. Get to know your people. If people are our greatest asset, we got to get to know them. Show compassion, that empathy, interest in what they're doing, interest in their goals right now. It's great for us to look into the future. The second little quick fix that a lot of you are probably doing as well is maybe like a virtual pizza party or a virtual team gathering. You know, we've had clients actually send pizza cards out, like, you know, gift cards. So everybody could order a pizza from Domino's or Pizza Hut, whatever your favorite pizza place is. And then everybody orders pizza and they do a virtual meeting, have some fun. They'll play some virtual games like bingo. I've actually participated with our clients in virtual bingo. Didn't win, but that's all right. Gave it my best shot. And then there were gift card winners. It was awesome. You can discuss goals and priorities virtually. Some of you may actually be able to gather in person, and if that's great, maybe it's outside, although not right now in Minnesota. Although ironically, you can eat outdoors right now. That has officially been passed. Again, a lot of stuff doesn't make any sense. I know Minnesotans have been putting memes up of guys sitting in the snow eating their lunch and saying Minnesota is open for outdoor eating. There's just a lot of stuff. This is challenging. Humor is also good for the cure. Emphasizing safety. You know, you can have clients that have had t-shirts made for their people or little giveaways, just getting them together and sharing vision and hope. And so you might be saying to yourself, you know, a lot of this stuff makes sense. I can see that this is a reality too. Just as real as COVID-19 is, the impact of social distancing is real. I'm not denying that COVID-19 exists. I am acknowledging that there are so many different perceptions about it. But I can tell you this, we all agree that social distancing has happened. It is real and it is having an impact. And so how do you know if your team really needs the cure? Well, during a time of chaos and an impending transition out of chaos, you can know by answering yes to some of these questions. Your team needs the cure if they are your greatest asset. You don't want to say goodbye to them. You don't want to watch them leave. If your team's experiencing virtual fatigue, that means that one form of communication, they're not all in anymore on that. And then that can be challenging. Is leadership important in your company? If it is a yes, we have to start by unifying your leaders and then connecting the team. Do you value efficient teamwork? I know you do. I mean, right on your own website for MHA, what we value. You value integrity, leadership. That's right on your website, right? So if leadership is important in your company, as it is at MHA, then you may need the cure. You also value innovation. That's on your website too. Here's the one I love. You value relationships, the relationships with your members, the relationships with your team members. I value the relationship with my wife. At 10 months in, we could have ended in divorce after the chaos. We just celebrated our 22-year anniversary. We have had 20 plus years of health issues. COVID-19 is nothing new for us. This is nothing new. It's another obstacle that we will get over together. But we plan on staying together after this one too. And she's considered an extremely high risk, okay? But we're preparing that relationship to stay together. Please keep your relationships that you value together on the home front, in your communities, in your businesses. Do you want higher levels of engagement in your people? If you're answering yes to that, let's get the cure in there. Is communication critical for success? Well, I would hope everybody says yes to that one. Now, we do have the cure, and I'll tell you what we're doing in businesses. We have really a 3-step process we work on: cohesion, connection, and communication. Kind of mentioned them a little earlier. We do a leadership cohesion program. We unify the key leaders. We have a leadership connection program. We get all of the teams connected through a shared language of leadership. We get them speaking and acting and thinking as leaders. And then we also have the communication movement. And this is about every word, every speech, gesture, and action unifying our people. So I'll bring it all home, and I promise I'll be on time today. When we talk about uniting the key leaders, this is important. The leadership cohesion program is critical because the key leaders, those at the top, you can call them your C-suite, your executive leaders. If there is any gap in that leadership team, that ripple effect is felt by everybody. Kind of like kids on the home front, right? Kids know when the parents are not on the same page. They know when there's a ripple. No matter how much we hide it, they know. The team members know when the leaders are not unified. Most leaders have never gone through leadership development. They've never been exposed to a challenge like this. In the military, if you're a veteran, you know this. In the military, they constantly prepare you to put you in chaos. In the business sector, we prepare people to avoid chaos. There's no avoiding this. So most people in business are not prepared for this. They're not prepared to lead, and that's what we help with. And we do have some steps. We have leaders fill out a leader profile. I do a 60-minute inspection. I ask questions. Then I put together an assessment based on the answers. And then we have a transformation session where all the leaders step off together in unison. And it's awesome. We've been doing that since the beginning of COVID-19. We've been doing this. We also believe in connection. We want to develop everyone to think and act as leaders. And so right from my book, The Leadership Connection, we have a 4-part series we take in. We teach people how to enhance perceptions because perception is reality. And the reality out there may not be the truth. It may not be right, but it's perception. We got to get people to think differently about the future. Kind of what Aubrey said, we're going to make 2021 so awesome, but our perceptions are going to help with that. We also have to elevate priorities. Everything's important right now. Some things are a priority. We need to empower people all the time, but right now, there's no greater time than right now as leaders to make a conscious effort to empower people. And we need to exceed possibilities. I'm ready to kick butt and take names in 2021. I hope you're with me on that. And then we'll bring it all home with communication. We want to unify our people with a shared language of success. Right now, you speak your business language, but are you creating a movement with communication? This is actually the cover of my new book, and right in there, I talk about our words, our speeches, our gestures, and our actions. Those 4 things have the ability to unify our people, and then I'll show you how. I'm going to give you a couple communication tidbits. How many of you would agree that communication, in your opinion, is a 10 out of 10 in the workplace, that communication is critical? Anybody agree with me on that one? Yeah, all right, a lot of hands going up. That is awesome. It is. And so I like to think of communication very much like the symphony. When an orchestra plays a symphony and there's that harmony, communication should sound very much like that, not like a bunch of kazoo players. Nothing against kazoo players, but I would prefer to hear a symphony. And in most symphonies, the majority of them, there's 4 movements: a fast movement, a slow movement, a dance movement, and a strong movement. A conductor, a leader is up there to make sure everything is harmonious. We can have harmony in our teams right now during chaos. We absolutely can. I have it at Think Great. I've had it in the financial services world. I've had it at the media company through chaos called the Great Recession. We had it, but it takes effort. And so what I've done is I've taken that same approach. And with communication, I believe that there's 4 movements of a shared language. And again, I mentioned these earlier, but really start to analyze and think about the words you hear in your workplace, the speeches as people are talking, their dialogue, the gestures, the body language that's happening, and the actions. Is it unifying your people, or is it adding to the disconnection? Based on time, I can only give you a couple tidbits here, but I'll talk about the very first movement, our words. Words are so powerful, and the words we choose, they have the ability to build stronger identities. Identity is critical during challenging times. That's why the military, they go into challenges, not just doing what they do, knowing who they are. So critical. Words have the ability to create exceptional attitudes. How many of you, just out of curiosity, would believe that attitudes in the workplace could be better these days? Anybody with me on that? Just like to see better attitudes, more positivity, beacons of hope. Yeah, I'm with you. So we can create exceptional attitudes and we can assemble remarkable teams. But here's what I found. As I was writing the book, I realized most people only know of the 9 main word classes. This is what we were taught in school: nouns, verbs, adverbs, all that stuff. Well, I believe there's one more word class. So I created my own. I added it, and I'm hoping it gets accepted by the English classes around the country. And that 10th word class, it's not a noun, it's not a verb, it's not an adverb. That 10th word class is a magnet. Every word, in my opinion, is like a magnet. We have the ability to create attraction or repulsion with every word. Now, I want to share some words with you. I want you to actually leave with some things today you can do. I'm not saying these are bad words. I'm saying that some words have a repulsion effect that we didn't intend. How do people feel about change? Because we are in a world of change right now, and more change coming. Transition's all about change. Just real quickly, anybody, how do people feel about change? How many would agree that people don't like it, they fear it, they hate it? Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to give you some new words to say. Don't change anything, enhance everything. Change is different, enhance means greater. Enhance creates buy-in. Also, don't manage people. Manage your budgets, manage inventory, manage shift schedules, manage projects. Lead people, encourage them, inspire them, share vision with them. And also stop selling. Don't sell anything. We like it when people buy, but we don't have to sell. We can share. We can share more passion, share our integrity. We can share innovation. And last but not least, be very careful what we call our people. We said people are our greatest asset. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was on payroll. I did receive a paycheck, but I was never called an employee. I was called a Marine. If you're on this call and you were in the Army, you were called a sailor, or a soldier, excuse me, but you received a paycheck. In the Navy, you're a sailor. In the Air Force, you're an airman. When you grew up, those of you listening to me right now, when you were growing up and your career counselor said, what do you want to be when you grow up? How many of you said, I want to be an employee? Nobody. At the media company, one of the first things I did there is I asked the owner if he'd be willing to take the word employee out of the handbook, just remove it and replace it with team member, because we kept talking about teamwork, how important teams are. And so we no longer had an employee handbook, we had a team handbook. Now, I'm going to bring it all home on the 4th movement that's in the book, actions. Actions speak louder than words, we know that. So we have to take the right actions in the workplace, especially right now. We have to synchronize our performance, harmonize our efforts, and do more recognition, boost it. But I want to show you how powerful the right actions are. If you've ever been around a draft horse, also known as a workhorse, they're strong. One horse can pull 8,000 pounds, which means if we connect, bring 2 of them together, it should pull 16,000 pounds. That's not the case. When you bring 2 together, it pulls 24,000 pounds. That means 1 + 1 = 3. When we unify our people the right way, we magnify performance. It gets better though. How many of you are ready for it to get better? Because here it comes. Okay. Hey, good one, Marilyn. I like that. I'm still waiting to grow up. I love your attitude. That is awesome. Okay, 1 horse can pull 8,000, 2 can pull 24,000. When horses have been brought together, trained, and become a cohesive unit, 2 horses that have learned how to work together, not socially distanced, together, 2 together, can pull 32,000 pounds. That means 1 + 1 = 4. If you want to maximize your people, don't just slap a harness on them. Don't just put them back into work. Don't just unite them, unify them. Unify them. You have to ask yourself this question. Do you have the cure for social distancing? Because social distancing will come to an end, but the psychological effect, the physical effects will not. In fact, they will only show themselves. So I want to implore you, make a commitment to provide that prescription. If you would like additional information, I am more than happy to help you with that. I can share with any of you. Aubrey has my contact information. I am also more than happy to answer any questions for anyone that decides to stay on for a little bit longer. If you have questions specific about your team, leadership, planning, goals, anything, I am here for you. Aubrey, I'm going to hand it all back to you. I want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I am so passionate. We have a mission statement, we have a vision statement, but we also have a crusade at Think Great. Our crusade is to share the cure for social distancing, because it is coming to an end, but the effects are not. They're only going to pick up, and we're here to help you. So I wish you the best over the next 14 days as you wrap up the craziest year ever. You all deserve some sort of recognition for making it through this year. And I am here as an extension of your team. So thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Erik. That was wonderful, chock full of information. So I hope you all enjoyed. We are planning to partner with Erik and Think Great into 2021 to offer his leadership series to MHA. So make sure you check for that, watch for that, and we will be offering that hopefully early 2021. So make sure that that gets on your calendar. Erik, do you have anything you want to say about that specifically?
Yeah, I'm extremely excited. We're going to be customizing some programs for MHA exclusively for you guys to help you and your teams really harness the power of 2021, which I believe is the year of opportunities. They'll be new, they'll be different, but there's going to be a ton of them. We are going to be working specifically with Aubrey to bring you some amazing content. And I would also say, if you want to, we have a social media platform we use called thinkgreatnow.com. We are posting free content on there. You can register there for free, and there's content on social distancing, the cure for it. There is content on leadership, strategic planning, goal setting, everything you need. It's all free. It's our give back. So you can also send me a friend request on there, and I promise I will accept that, and we can dialogue a little bit more. But I'm looking forward to 2021. I'm looking forward to partnering with you and helping to make an impact in your business and your people.